Hey guys, my name is Samantha. I'm from Hayden, Alabama. I am a first semester student at the Auburn School of Nursing, and I'm going to share with you today some interesting facts that I found during my research on post-traumatic stress disorder. During my research on PTSD, I found that PTSD, by definition, involves coping in the form of avoidance of thoughts, feelings, and situations that are reminiscent of traumatic events. It is not uncommon for war veterans to return from deployment and become diagnosed with PTSD. The largest non-veteran population that suffered from PTSD are the Vietnam War veterans. Studies show that 18 to 30% of Vietnam War veterans have met criteria for PTSD at least once in their lifetime. I would like to talk to you today specifically about how these veterans coped with this disorder. A study conducted between World War II veterans, Korean War veterans, and Vietnam War veterans by the National Center of PTSD and Tufts New England Medical Center finds that Vietnam War veterans were more emotionally focused than problem-focused when handling a situation that evoked the traumatic event. The Vietnam veteran chooses to be emotionally focused, learns how to control emotions once facing a stressor, whereas a problem-focused veteran usually tried to change the environment that brought back the memories of the traumatic incident. They were also found to have a better grasp on coping with their PTSD than those that only wanted medical treatment. On another note, since the war ended in 1975, the Vietnam War veterans are closely approaching their elderly stages of life. Many have become deceased. The Journal of Gerontological Social Work states that 50% of Vietnam veterans born between 1946 and 1967 should be over the age of 65 by 2015. The elderly already face many complications daily without chronic diseases or disorders, so living with PTSD complicates their living even further. This will be important to remember when interviewing an elderly Vietnam War veteran diagnosed with post-traumatic stress disorder.
Hey, I'm Kara. I'm from Tampa, Florida, and I'm a first semester nursing student at Auburn University. I'd like to address how PTSD affected Vietnam veterans' personal lives after the war. Approximately 38% of Vietnam veterans' marriages ended within 6 months of returning home from overseas. In fact, the VA states that the National Vietnam Veterans Readjustment Study found that Vietnam veterans experiencing symptoms of PTSD were twice as likely to go through a divorce and 3 times more likely to divorce more than once compared to the veterans that returned home without PTSD symptoms. I found that families of veterans returning home with PTSD experienced higher rates of domestic violence, including physical and verbal aggression from the veteran's spouse. A study conducted by Byron and Riggs discovered that 42% of 50 Vietnam veterans surveyed had engaged in at least one act of physical violence against a partner or spouse within the previous year. In addition to violence, substance abuse is also seen in veterans with PTSD. The VA reported that 1 out of every 3 veterans seeking treatment for substance abuse is also seeking treatment for PTSD. It is important to focus on Vietnam veterans' mental health because they are the largest cohort of veterans within the U.S., which is approximately 32% of all living veterans, or 8.4 million people.
Hey, I'm Jessie, and I'm a first semester nursing student at Auburn, and I'm from Marietta, Georgia.
Hey, I'm Hope, and I'm a first semester nursing student at Auburn, and I'm from Andalusia, Alabama. I like to address that many individuals with PTSD often suffer from persistent nightmares that affect their sleeping patterns as well as their activities of daily living. The most common type of nightmares experienced by veterans is replay nightmares. These types of dreams make up approximately 21 to 60% of all stated nightmares. They portray replications of traumatic events and memories experienced by the veterans. They are mostly related to combat exposure that include people, places, and things that were characteristic of combat. The nightmares more often occur in the earlier part of the sleep cycle and involve uncontrollable gross body movements. These nightmares usually include gruesome scenes of death, killing, injury, or violence of some sort. These sleep disorders are common among Vietnam veterans and unfortunately are hard to treat.
Treating aspects of disordered sleeping is extremely important to helping those living with PTSD. There are many options of treatment to choose from, but I focus my research on non-pharmacologic treatments, or ones that don't involve medication. This is because studies have shown that veterans are more willing to participate in these types of treatments because medicine is commonly associated with the negative stigma of mental health issues. I researched a few different options of treatments, but one of the most interesting to me was imagery rehearsal. This method consists of identifying a PTSD nightmare and then altering what happens in it. Through this approach, one study found that 98% of its participants were able to end their dreams on a positive note. Although these results are extremely promising, there is still a lot of research to be done. Thanks for listening, and War Eagle!